we reaffirmed that Ukraine will become a member of NATO and agreed to remove the requirement for a membership action plan. This would change Ukraine's membership path from a two-step process to a one-step process. I said in Kiev yesterday that Ukraine's future is in the Euro-Atlantic family, and all NATO allies have agreed that Ukraine will become a NATO member.
Also, our friends will support us and will see us in NATO. But anyway, we are very realistic. We know that we will not be in NATO during the war. But during the war, we want to get very clear message that we will be in NATO after the war.
As you know, President Zelensky, he softened his tone a bit, but he says it's unprecedented and absurd. Those are his words, unprecedented and absurd, that NATO isn't providing a specific time frame for Ukraine to join the NATO alliance after the war. What message does that send to Vladimir Putin?
Wolf, I think we have to remember that President Zelensky's in a fight. He's been in a fight for well over a year. As he entered the picture here at the summit, it was fascinating to sit in the room and watch as 31 countries assured him one after another that he was going to be a member of NATO and that they're going to support him for as long as it takes.
Trying to bring Georgia and Ukraine into NATO was truly overreaching. NATO expansion was a political act, recklessly ignoring what the Russians considered their own vital national interests.
Russia is particularly worried that the strong divisions in Ukraine over NATO membership could lead to a major split, involving violence or, at worst, civil war. In that eventuality, Russia would have to decide whether to intervene, a decision Russia does not want to have to face.
Was that President Putin declared in the autumn of 2021, and he actually sent a draft treaty that he wanted NATO to sign to promise no more NATO enlargement. That was what he sent us. And that was a precondition for not invade Ukraine. Of course, we didn't sign that. The opposite happened. He wanted us to sign a promise never to enlarge NATO. He wanted us to remove our military infrastructure in all allies that have joined NATO since 1997, meaning half of NATO, all the Central and Eastern Europe. We should remove NATO from that part of our alliance, introducing some kind of E and B or second-class membership. We rejected that. So he went to war to prevent more NATO close to its borders.
This is a crisis that is all about the West's efforts to turn Ukraine into a Western bulwark on Russia's border. It involves a three-pronged strategy, bringing Ukraine into the EU, turning Ukraine into a pro-Western liberal democracy, and number three, and most importantly, bringing Ukraine into NATO. If you listen to Putin's speeches and you read his writings, he has made it unequivocally clear that this is the principal problem.
We have never agreed to NATO's expansion, especially not with Ukraine joining NATO. We never accepted the presence of NATO bases there without any discussions with us. For decades we pleaded, do not do this. What served as a trigger for the recent events? First of all, the current Ukrainian leadership stated that it would not fulfill the Minsk agreements signed after the events of 2014 in Minsk, where a peace settlement plan for Donbass was outlined. The current leadership of Ukraine declared that they are not satisfied with these German agreements and do not intend to comply. The former leaders of Germany and France have openly admitted that they signed the Minsk agreement but never intended to implement it.
I'm absolutely convinced that Putin will fail and Russia will suffer a strategic defeat.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Putin will fail, and Ukraine and Europe will prevail.
Allies agree that Ukraine's future is in NATO, and we are determined to make progress in charting this path. Membership will be Ukraine's ultimate security guarantee.
The war didn't need to happen. It was provoked. It doesn't necessarily mean it was provoked by the Russians. There were all kinds of conversations back then about Ukraine joining NATO. The president has spoken about this. That didn't need to happen.
In Washington, again, NATO committed to future NATO membership for Ukraine. But it has never been agreed that whenever peace talks would start, that peace talks would end anyway and always and definitely with NATO membership. That has never been agreed. It could be, but there has never been a promise to Ukraine that as part of a peace deal, they would be in NATO.
In 2021, we kept reiterating that Ukraine was going to join. We kept saying that over and over again. So our diplomats are lying?
Yes.
Yes,
that's the real world, guys. Come on.
But you can.
That's the real world.
Wait a sec. Our diplomats are lying all the time, yet the Russians should trust them when they offer assurances.